When you consider conventional or maybe commercial farming relative to where we find ourselves, we still use some input costs. In other words, to define input costs, we talk about fertilizer. We by necessity sometimes have to use insecticides. By necessity, we sometimes have to use pesticides, because at the end of the day, we must still be economical. We've still got to make a living. But we're finding that our requirement for those inputs, as I've described, is definitely declining. When you have a shortage of something, you've got to restore the soil life to enable the soil. And one of the classic examples is if you look at our natural grazing or veld as we know it, there are no artificial inputs, none at all. And yet by managing it correctly, we can sustain and increase its production. So what changes that in terms of how we produce our food? There we have to look at areas of crop rotation, bringing in a diversity of plant life, legumes, herbs, grasses, and not grow monoculture. In other words, we can't just keep on growing year after year millies or whatever it is. We've got to look at bringing in other crops to build that soil's capacity. It doesn't mean to say that we've got to go back to early times. We can still produce, but we have to look at how we produce. Well, I think what we want to emphasize, our whole objective is to develop a sustainable farming system which is a minimal inputs. In other words, minimizing the amount of purchased inputs and also maximizing what nature allows us to achieve. I've always maintained nature is a dynamic, and if you understand the fundamentals of nature, you can get huge increases in production. For an example, most of our neighbors around us have what we call a carrying capacity in terms of area of land per animal or cow of in the region of 6 to 1. We need 6 hectares to keep one cow through the year. We are currently at least doubling, if not increasing that amount.